Thank you for joining us again for graphic hacks and case studies. We are all set. Jim Crawshaw, take it away.
Thank you very much, Adam. Certainly appreciate that introduction and warm welcome. So I just want to thank everyone else as well for attending today, not being too busy or not being too important to attend. And I trust this next few minutes is going to be packed with value for you. So hopefully you're all hearing me loud and clear from down under, otherwise known as New Zealand. So hopefully during this webinar there won't be any earthquakes where we have to be evacuated for tsunami warnings, etc., which we experienced last week. But hey, back to the point. So I'm Jim Crawshaw, General Manager of PSI brand here, and very passionate about brand, very passionate about the plastics industry. So for over 20 years, I've been involved in this industry, and certainly one that we're finding more and more exciting stuff going on. So starting out in a rotational molding factory myself, on a molding machine, and then growing into a business which my father started back when we were rotational molding. We now have a product which we're taking globally. So that being the branding system. So in this next 20 minutes, I certainly hope to keep it to 20 minutes, apart from the questions at the end. I really want to explain some good good product branding is important to you, and share some typical pains felt by the industry that we all know too well, and present some real life secrets and some gains that molders have experienced. So that related around some case studies. So of course I want to wrap up with any questions and do my best to answer them as concisely and accurately as possible. And as a bonus takeaway, we want to provide what we call a new pains and gains sheet for those attending today. So with no further ado, PSI brand, we're all about brand. As I mentioned, it's in our blood. We really, coming from a background of rotational molders in the agricultural industry, making calf feeders and pig feeders and different kind of products, formerly known as Stallion Plastics in Palms North. And Steve, my father, developed the in-mold graphic system. But then we went on to develop as well the post-mold graphic systems, which are used for many different applications. So adding value to your part, making them exceptional, making them pop and stand out. So serial numbers, barcodes, and now the RFID tracking systems are all popular ways that these are being used. Furthermore, we have the water-based surface enhancer and more recently a Psi Paint system. So you'll notice Stoner Molding's logo there. Now we've partnered with Stoner of recent to develop a new product called Rotoflow WB. So talk to Larry Whittemore if you want to find more about that flow promoter or surface enhancer product. Furthermore, we have the training portal and masterclasses. So just touching on that briefly, as part of the Association of Rotational Molding, there is the Australasian division, which you're also part of. And there's a really awesome new series they're running at the moment called the Masterclass at Machine. And that's packed with valuable info. It's real live demonstrations, videos, and masterclasses at rotational molders. So as sponsors of that event, we're pleased to present in that as well. So the training portal is on our website. You can go on there anytime and put your operators through it to train up on how to use graphics, add value to your parts. Why brand is important. A brand is a voice and a product is a souvenir. One of Richard Branson's top 10 quotes around branding. Really what that's saying is if you're sending out a product there without any branding on it, is simply a souvenir that someone can take away. As soon as you put your brand on it, it then speaks what that brand is all about and where it comes from. So it wraps up the customer experience. Just showing Coca-Cola there as an example. Imagine if Coca-Cola were to send out red cans of fizzy bubbly stuff around the world without any logo. Would you be brave enough to crack that can open and try it? Maybe not. Are they known as a sugar-filled bubbly drink? Maybe not. They try to claim the saying open happiness. So really, just the point that I'm trying to make is it does wrap up the customer experience. What are you known for? Is it your awesome service? Is it your quality product? That should really be represented in your brand, and that's why you want to have your brand on every product that you do, to give that consistency, give that pop also. Rather than just having a plain product or a smart looking product, you want to provide some pop in an otherwise very crowded marketplace that is out there at the moment. Add strength to your promise. So what is your promise? Branding does add strength to your promise. There's all sorts of data on this. How putting a brand on a product is more likely to sell than one without, and how it adds that value. So it sets you apart, does not allow you to risk mediocrity. No brand is a potential for missed sales. We've seen this time and time again where customers have started implementing branding on their products, and immediately they are seeing some return by their product being seen in the field and recognized. So don't miss those potential for extra sales. Now, just a few facts before we get on with the case studies, and the fact is that nothing sticks to plastic, and that's the real reason why we are using plastic for a lot of the products that we make. In the roto industry, it has so many benefits, but the fact that nothing sticks to it makes it very challenging when we want to start branding. And as you can see in some of these examples here, some of these products will lose their reputation because of the poor branding. It does not reflect really, the effort and time that has gone into creating these brilliant parts. So there is the assumption that poor brand equals poor craftsmanship, which is unfair, because we know that every molder puts a lot of the time puts their heart and soul into the molding, starting from the mold to the coatings to the resins they put inside it, materials, and then if they're going to add some branding that's going to let them down, that really takes the shine off all that hard work that's gone in. So, oh, what a pain, number one. This is the number one pain we really hear by molders in the industry, and that is increased labor costs due to application of branding. So some of these pains are really around, consistent training of your operators. We know with staff churn, you do need to continue that training. That's a given, but how can we ensure that is consistent? And that's something that I'd like to touch on briefly in the next slide. Slowing down the cycle times is going to increase part costs. Okay, that seems obvious. So adding branding into your cycle times, such as in-mold graphics, is that going to slow down your cycle times? A very valid question. It should not. Mold too hot or mold too cold. So these are some of the pains that have been experienced too in the past. What temperature do we apply these graphics? Do we have to cool the molds down? Do we have to heat them up? When is the perfect temperature? What do we have to do to get it right? And then of course, human error. Okay, so unless you install robots, which is totally possible, but is a costly exercise, human error is a real factor, resulting in reject rate blowout. So the case study I'd like to share here with Viking Kayaks New Zealand, a local company that we've been working with for a long time now. So really, the story I'd like to portray here is that every molding cycle counts. So before using PSI, Viking Kayaks have been around since 1999, and they are a manufacturer of, say, specialist fishing kayaks, and they ship these throughout the globe. So awesome little company, or medium-sized company now. And I guess before we started working with them, they were talking about running 6 cycles a day in an 8-hour shift, and they were experiencing up to around a 5% reject rate. Largely, they're put down to the branding systems that they were using. So the question was, how can they improve? Shall we continue using graphics? Should we look at something else? So after using PSI, implementing our systems in 2008, Lenny, the production manager at the time, proudly proclaimed that he could fit in 1 more cycle per shift. And furthermore, he was experiencing some reject rates of less than 1%. And we thought, wow, we didn't realize how powerful this really was. Due to the ease of application with our peel and stick in-mold graphic systems, just how much time he was saving. So, and of course the reject rates, being able to get consistency with every mold cycle. So What I also want to touch on there was the Get Certified scheme on our website. So that's a free training portal which you can take your operators into anytime and upskill them, keep their systems consistent as far as applications. So there's some training modules on there. You can watch tutorials, download resources, and answer some questions on there to make sure your team are fully up to speed. Oh, what a pain number 2. So the pain number 2 is really increased cost due to high minimums. So this is something, again, that has been a restriction as far as getting going with permanent branding systems. So, hey, I'm a startup. I want to get going. I'm forced to buy 1,000 when I only need 10. What? And I'm going to share a little case study in the next slide, but why be tied down to massive minimums when you can really get started with just a few? Are your inventory costs too high? Most likely you've got a lot of graphics sitting on the shelf that you've been forced to buy just to get the unit rate down. I don't want a bump sticker on my new Mercedes. So the point I'm trying to make there is, hey, I'm a startup, I want to get something out in the market, but I don't want to slap some stickers on that are going to essentially peel off or start looking shabby less than 12 months down the track. I want to launch product ready or market ready with my product with what it's going to be in the future. So that is a true problem. Less outlay equals more profit. So essentially we're saying you can get started with less, which means you can get a greater return on profits straight away. So yes, what a gain number 2. The case study I'd like to share here is with Surfset. So Mike and his team here of Surfset Fitness are based in New York. So they launched a successful startup, and to get started, really all they had was these credentials. Mike was a surfer, he had a concept and a cool idea, and he knew a molder. So Surfset Fitness, you can Google it. It's quite cool. It's a type of fitness program which involves a surfboard. And Mike had a question of how he could launch with a product that was ready for market. So by getting in touch with PSI, we were able to supply prototypes to his molder for less than $300. This allowed him to get with, I think it was a dozen to 20 samples, so we could start molding that board that they're all standing around there. This essentially meant that Mike could springboard his sales based on a 100% product offering. This has been a very successful startup, sweeping success now with thousands of products throughout the US and also now in Singapore and other gyms globally. So again, the point I'm trying to make here is we can help you get started no matter how big or small you are on very small minimums, so you can really test the market and test your product. Oh, what a pain number 3. Limited shelf life leads to waste. Okay, so it kind of ties in with the previous one, but if your graphic shelf looks anything like this one of ours here, where we've got a lot of graphics in stock, really what is the true cost of these and how long are they going to last on the shelf? We know the typical environments of rotational molding factories, they may not always have a cupboard like this, or they may not have the luxury of an office where they can keep it in. But the question is, how long do they last on the shelf anyway, even if they are kept in a nice environment? What we're seeing is that shelf life does lead to rejects, a product that is unusable. Again, there's mishandling and poor storage. So what are your inventory costs again? There's a true reason to believe that inventory costs are probably a lot higher than what you believe they are. Maybe because your customers has wanted to get a unit price down to a certain factor, which has forced you to buy, some high minimums. So yes, what a gain number 3. The short story I'd like to share here is with Stallion Plastics, again a local customer that have used our graphics for over 20 years, and they really got the best out of their shelf life. So before using the graphics from PSI, there was a limited shelf life. I believe it was around 6 to 12 months, and the graphics were rendered unusable. And as we know, the environment is typically hot and dusty, so create challenges with anything, as we know. And often there's the open the packet of graphics, set and forget, and then oh damn, they go to reuse them again with another run, and they're unusable. So it results in downtime, results in having to order some more costs, more time. So using the PSI graphics, I mean, they've used their graphics for over 20 years now, and there was a certain batch of graphics, I believe it is, tied in with this picture here. They do a lot of playground equipment, and they went to run another set of these graphics after 7 years, and they noticeably looked deteriorated, and they were just questioning whether they could be used. They tried using them, one of them failed, so they gave us a call. They said, hey, how about you pop them in the microwave for 30 seconds and see what happens. Thankfully, they called back 3 hours later and said, yes, we're up and molding again, everything's fine. So what I'm trying to say here, the base product that we use for our graphics will soften and become back to its normal state when it's warmed. So again, they prove the unlimited shelf life of our graphics. So don't be tied to a limited shelf life. Our graphics feature unlimited shelf life. So trust that's a real benefit for any molders down the track. So I'd just like to conclude and summarize with a bonus takeaway before we go to the questions, is to be or not to be. Brand is for you, cannot be denied. The cost of poor brand is simply not affordable. Why tolerate the pains when you can get some real gains? So get certified. Again, there goes the link to the part on our website which describes how to get certified, get your company certified as a PSI graphics user, and use that portal for training your operators on how to use graphics consistently. We will have more webinars like this coming out, so I encourage you to go to our webinar series page and sign up, and also view some of the recordings that we've got from previous webinars as well. So Adam will be sending out a feedback form. We want to know how well we've done, whether this was valuable for you, and what you'd like to hear from us in the future. And as a reward for filling out that feedback, we will send you our takeaway, the pains and gains sheet. So Adam, it's over to you. Has there been any questions coming at this point?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jim. We've got one here. Maybe they're coming in. And I just want to remind everyone to type your questions into the question box. We'll go through the couple that we've got, and then we'll ask any more that we receive in the meantime. As you mentioned, I was going to say too, at the end of this webinar, a survey should pop up. You can complete it right then and there. Otherwise, you will get the survey by email in a day along with the recording. So the first question we have is, will material color bleed through your graphics?
Very, very good question. And the short answer is no. Due to the film base product that we use for our in-mold graphics, being a solid construction, you shouldn't expect to see any color bleed through at all. If you do, it could be to do with the opacity of the color, and there's so much we can do with that. But again, being a film-based graphic, this is something that we never really experience. So the short answer is no, you shouldn't see color bleed through.
All right, thank you. The other question we have is, what's the most common challenge that operators have with graphics applications? And do you have any advice, any general advice that owners and managers can be passing on to the operators regarding graphics applications?
Absolutely, absolutely. Very good question. Now, the biggest challenges that operators face is simply consistency. So you'll get one operator that learns how to use it, and this could be through a training session that we've provided them, or it could be through one of their peers training them. And essentially what we find is, what do they call it? It's like that game we used to play when we were kids called telephone, where you talk to the next person and you talk to the next person with a message, and then figure out what the message comes back at the end. That's what we kind of see happen. So it's training. It's applying it correctly. So it could be the tools they're using, it could be simply the method they're using, it could be the cleaning process they're using. There's a number of things, but it all boils down to training. And that is why we've launched our portal on our website, where you can take your operators anytime and they can run through the different set modules that we've got there. So we have videos of each, so there'll be a video dedicated to each graphic type plus a short questionnaire. And what that does, it allows them to go on any time and make sure they're up to speed. So I encourage any manager to put their team into that portal. What's more, we do have masterclasses. So where you've got 6 or more attendees at your business or plant, we offer a 60 to 90-minute masterclass. We will run through each of the graphic types. We also send you a welcome pack, and at the same time, obviously doing it now via Zoom, there's the opportunity to question each graphic type and typical challenges and application challenges that you might face. So I trust that helps and answers that question.
Yeah, I think so. Next question. If you place the graphic in the wrong location, can you remove it?
Awesome question. I love this one. Absolutely. Now, that is another major benefit of our graphics. Because they are film-based and they are self-adhesive, they are very flexible. We say they're rugged, but essentially, yes, if you stick it down onto a surface and you say, oh, damn, that's in the wrong place, you can carefully pick it up from the corner and peel it off again. So yes, that can be done.
Great. Thank you very much, Jim. Yes, and I am not seeing any other questions coming in. Oh, do you have in-mold paint?
We do, yes. So I touched on this in one of our earlier slides, right at the start, where we talked about the surface enhancer and the Psi Paint. Now, the Psi Paint is a fairly new product, which you spray onto the inside of your mold. Essentially, this paint has a dispersible dye, so effectively it goes in and it dyes the first couple of mils of your resin or material. So yes, happy to sample this with you. This is a reasonably new product, so be very, very keen to send you samples if you're interested.
All right, well, why don't you let everybody know your email address and then we will wrap it up.
Absolutely, so that brings us to the last slide. So there's my email address there, jim@psibrand.com. You can certainly jump on our website as well and go under contacts, and you will find my contact details there, as along with our local reps. So Toby Huff has recently joined us as well as our rep for the North American region. So absolutely feel free to reach out to Toby and myself if you're within the America region, or whichever. We also have another rep in Europe, Walter Bernazzi. So hey, looking forward to hearing from any of you guys with any questions, samples we can provide to help. More than happy.
All right, thank you very much. I think everyone was able to take something valuable away from the presentation. You will get a survey, I believe, when the webinar ends, but definitely by email within a day. And if you want any more information from PSI Brand, just indicate that on the survey and they will get you the information. We just also especially like any feedback you have on what topics you would like to see addressed on a webinar in the future, whether it's related to graphics or anything else. Thanks so much. Thank you very much, Jim, and have a great day.
Excellent. Thank you all.